This is the Laguna Tools T1002 sliding table shaper. And this is the perfect shaper for many applications that you need the maximum flexibility for. Let's go around and have a look at a few of the features on this machine. Now, one of the hallmarks of this machine is just how beefy the cast iron is, and you can see just how deep the table is on the side profile and how heavy the webbing is right here. But also the tabletop itself is very thick. It also comes pre-drilled. You're going to see these 4 holes right here that are drilled and tapped, and this is to accept a power feeder. If you're feeding stock through the machine and you have a lot of footage to run through here, a power feeder is your best friend. This will bolt right here in this location. It'll gooseneck up and over the top and allow you to go through and feed stock effortlessly through this machine. Now, the T1002 shaper comes with many accessories that are standard equipment on this machine, and a couple of them that you'll see right here installed on the machine right now are the in-feed and out-feed tables. These are steel tables. You also have one that is a side support table as well, and this is called a clip-on support table. So when you're going through and perhaps you're doing a cope cut or a counter profile, your stock can come out here and rest on the table and allow you to slide it through it. And now, while we're talking about this sliding table, you can see that the travel on this table is just extraordinary. It pulls all the way out here, and this near edge right here is 55 inches away from the center line of the spindle, and that gives you just a really nice amount of travel to slide your stock all the way through the machine. Now, this clip-on support table is positioned any place up and down the side of the sliding table to be maximum usage for you, and you simply unlock 2 handles on that. This can be slid to any position up and down the table and locked back in position by using the 2 lock handles on the bottom. Now, from this angle right here, you can see the flip stop, and this folds up to the up position, which allows you to go through and zero your fence out at 90 degrees. And when you're not using it, or if you're doing a mitered cut, you can simply fold this out of the way. You'll also notice in this position right here we have a handle, and this can be loosened and secured anywhere up and down the side rail or on the top rail here to allow you an extra push handle to slide your stock through the machine quite easily. You'll also see that there's a plastic handle on the in-feed side as well, so it gives you really the maximum flexibility for doing all kinds of projects. Now, the crosscut fence for this machine that comes standard equipment is a telescoping crosscut fence, and it features 2 spring-loaded flip stops. It also features a heavy-duty hold-down clamp that is adjustable and has a quick release and cam action. The 48-inch crosscut fence will telescope out to a total of 6 feet away from the machine, and this allows you to go through and do crosscuts. So, for example, if you're doing doors and you're doing the counter profile or what we call the cope cut, you can slide it through the machine quite easily. Now, the sliding table is a fantastic feature of this machine, and it's great for doing the cope cut or counter profiles. But let's say you're doing stock feeding through the machine and you want to lock it in place. You simply push in this little knurled knob right here, locks the sliding table in place, and now you can use it up against the fence and do regular stock feeding through the machine like a traditional shaper. Now, if we're doing stock feeding through the machine, nothing is more important than having a good heavy-duty hood and fence assembly. And this machine has got a great heavy-duty cast iron hood assembly here that has nice aluminum fences here. And let's go ahead and open the hood up here and have a look at a few features. First of all, you're going to see that it has a very sophisticated hold-down system right here, and this provides a guard and also a hold back here for your pieces. This is a hold down, and these are easily positionable, so you can loosen this up, push this down against your stock, and hold it down firm to the table, and that allows you to get a nice quality of cut with very little chatter and no movement of your wood products. Now, in order to gain access to the spindle, we'll simply loosen the knob, and this entire assembly can be tipped up and out of the way, or just to gain access to the cutter, this can be lifted up and tipped separately of the hood assembly as well. So it gives you access in 2 different methods here to gain access to the spindle. Now, with this hood assembly opened up, you can see just how heavy cast iron this is, and it's a nice heavy cast iron hood assembly for a couple of reasons. One of them is safety. If you have a cutter that lets loose, you've got cast iron for it to fly into. The other reason is it's a very smooth and stable component here that provides vibration-free usage. It also is an anchor bracket for these fences. Now, these are aluminum extrusion fences, and they have a couple of neat features to them. First of all, they're chamfered on the inside edge so that when you bring them up to the cutter head, you can bring them very tight to the cutter head. The second thing that I think is just as important as bringing them close to the cutter head is being able to close off the portions of the fence that aren't being used. And you're going to see these safety fingers right here. And each of the fence halves includes these safety fingers, and these can be brought across just to close off the portion or the gap of the fence that you're not using, and that allows you to feed your stock right across effortlessly and to make a smooth transition from one fence to the other. Now, again, we mentioned that this fence is a very heavy-duty cast iron piece, and it's a heavy fence. If you lift this on and off the machine, you'll see how heavy it is. But even with it being as heavy, you'll see that it glides back and forth just with the touch of the fingertips right here. We'll set the course adjustment by sliding this forward and back, and I'll get this fairly close. I'll lock this little handle down. That engages the micro adjustment handle. Now I can go through and use this handle and set it to precisely the number that I like. And this actually just engages that one. Once I have that set, I will go through and lock this entire assembly down using the two nuts on the top here, these little hand nuts on the top. That locks the entire hood assembly down. Now that's got my in-feed fence set up. Let's step around to the other side and adjust the outfeed fence. Now the outfeed fence rides on a separate set of ways right here and is actually able to be moved separate of the hood. And so right now you'll see that I'm zeroed out on the scale right here. But I can take this micro adjustment handle and push this out a little bit. And so if I'm using this shaper sort of as a jointer, I can go through and set this table a little bit lower, set this one a little bit higher, and go through and joint. Also, if I'm doing a type of shaper pass where I remove a lot of trim on it or a lot of wood, I can go through and set this one just a little bit further out to match the amount that I'm removing from the wood. Now the back side of this hood right here, you're going to see that there's a large diameter dust port, and this allows you to collect a dust collector to the top side of the table. There's also a dust port on the side of the machine to collect from underneath the table. Now this machine features forward controls, meaning that both the tilt and the raise and lower mechanism handles are right up in front. And let's have a closer look. In order to do that, I'm going to remove the clip-on support table, and this simply unlocks and comes right off the machine. Now our forward controls feature the handles that are up in front here, and they're both heavy-duty cast iron wheels that are chrome plated. In order for us to raise the spindle up and have a look, we'll go ahead and unlock this one here, and we're going to crank the spindle to the up position, and you're going to see at the top of the table, and it pushes right up to the rings. Now with the spindle in the up position, we can actually remove some of these rings and expose the entire spindle of the machine. And you'll see what a large spindle this is. This is an 1¼ inch spindle on the machine. It is also an interchangeable spindle. And when you're doing your tooling changes on the machine, you simply will loosen up this nut here on the top, and this has got a taper to it, and remove the top nut. Now you can fit 5 inches of tooling on this shaper spindle, 5 inches under the nut, and the total travel on it is just a little over 7 inches. So you can actually take some large diameter tooling beneath the table. You can go over 10 inches down inside of the table, and you can run up to 12 inches of total diameter of tooling on the spindle above the table as well. And when we remove these little spacers, you're going to see just how nicely machined the spindle shaft is. Even the spacers themselves are center ground as well to make sure that you've got precision and stability when you're running that big diameter tooling. Now from this vantage point, with all of the rings removed here, you can see just how nice the spindle is, but you can also have a look inside here at the trunnions. And these are cast iron trunnions, and this supports the entire mechanism of the shaper to allow this to be a tilting spindle. Let me go ahead and tilt the spindle. You'll see just how nicely those move. And this is a very smooth action right throughout the entire run here as the spindle tilts over. And you can have a look just to see how heavy these trunnions are on the inside here. In fact, the entire saddle that supports the spindle assembly is all cast iron and very, very stable. This tilts from 90 degrees all the way through 45 degrees.